Hello class 7th, I am Ashok, your English teacher, present here with part 2 video of the chapter Chandni. In the previous video, we read about Abu Khan's gods who used to go to the hills to live in freedom, but killed there by an old wolf. We also read about a young god bought by Abu Khan to avoid his loneliness. He was sure that this god would stay there with him in his compound for a long time, but like other gods, she was also interested to go to hills and said to Abu Khan frankly, without any hesitation, that she would go to the hills. Now, let's read what happened in the next part of the story. Why do you want to leave me, Chandni? Abu Khan asked. I want to go to the hills, Chandni answered. Don't you like the food here? I will give you tastier food and a much longer rope. No, thank you. Let me go to the hills. Do you realize the risk you are running, you obstinate creature? There is a dangerous wolf in the hills. He will eat you up. Abu Khan did his best to warn her. Chandni answered, God has given me a pair of horns. I will fight the wolf. So, in this part of the text, we read that when Chandni expressed her desire to go to the hills, Abu Khan asked her that why did she want to leave him. Chandni could not say anything. She just said that she wanted to go to hills. Abu Khan tried her to persuade her to stay there and promised to give her tastier food and a much longer rope. But Chandni refused everything and said that she just wanted to go to hills. Abu Khan again tried his best to make her understand the risk she was going to take. He told her an adamant god who was not seeing the risk of a dangerous wolf in the hills who could eat her. She said that she wanted to face the wolf and fight with the wolf with her horse, which was gift from the god for her safety. Now see what is there in the next part. Fight the wolf, indeed. Have you forgotten the story of your sister Kalua, who was the size of a big deer? She fought the wolf through the night, what was killed in the morning. Abu Khan narrated Kalua's story for the 50th time. So, in this part of the text, we read that Abu Khan tried again to make Chandni understand that she could not fight with the wolf, and he told her the tale of the god Kalua uh, for 50th time, who was of the size of a big deer. She fought the wolf throughout the night, but was got killed in the morning. Now see the next part of the text. To all this, Chandni had only one thing to say: I want to go to the hills. So Chandni refused everything and just said that she wanted to go to hills. Abu Khan got very annoyed. He thundered, you are not going anywhere. From today, you will live in a small hut and not move about freely in the compound. Ungrateful as you are, you must still be saved from the wolf. He pushed her into a small hut and shut the door, but he forgot to close the small window at the back. The same night, Chandni made that window her passage to freedom. After listening to Chandni's words, Abu Khan got very annoyed and he made his mind not to let her go anywhere. And he said that though she was ungrateful, but still it was his duty to save her life from the wolf. And he pushed Chandni into a small hut and shut the door. But in hurry, he forgot to close the window at the back of hut. And at the same night, Chandni made that window her passage to her freedom and went away to hills. This was there in this part of the text. Now see the next part. Comprehension check. These questions I had already given you as homework when we had discussed this chapter in online class. So do these as homework. Now see, Chandni went back to the hills. She knew the wolf was somewhere there. She was ready to put up a good fight. So these are outlines of the story. Now see the story in detail. Chandni reached the hills. It seemed to her that the old hills were standing in a row to welcome her. She felt like a child meeting her parents after years of separation. Wherever she went, the tall grass rose to embrace her, the flowers bloomed to amuse her, and the wind sang an endless song of welcome. How different all this was from her past. In the prison house of Abu Khan's compound, it was the happiest day in Chandni's life. So, in this part of the text, we read that Chandni reached the hills, and it was felt by her that the old hills were standing in a row to welcome her there. At that time, she was feeling like a child who was meeting with her parents after many years of separation. Wherever she went in the hills, the tall grass was embracing her, and flowers were blooming to make her happy, and the wind was singing an endless song of welcome for her. The wind was blowing throughout the hills. All this was different from her past life when she was in the prison house of Abu Khan's compound. It was the happiest day in Chandni's life. She was uh, happy over her newly got freedom. Now, see the next part. That day she played for hours on the grassy slopes of the hills. She met a herd of wild goats who asked her to join their group, but Chandni politely refused. She wanted to enjoy her new freedom all by herself. So, on the very first day, when Chandni reached the hills, she played for hours there on the grassy slopes. For she met a herd of wild goats at the same day who offered her to join their group, but Chandni refused their offer very politely as she wanted to enjoy her newly got freedom alone by herself. Now, see the next part. The sun disappeared behind the hills, and soon darkness enveloped the grass, the flowers in the trees, the wind stopped blowing, and there was stillness all around except for a strange sound which was coming from the bushes. The sound was like a grunt. What was it? It was not Abu Khan's voice calling her back to the compound, nor was it the voice of another goat. Then Chandni thought of the dangerous wolf who lived in the hills. She felt scared. So in the evening, sun disappeared behind the hills, and soon darkness covered up the grass, the flowers, and the trees. The wind also stopped blowing. There was silence all around, except for a strange sound which was coming from the bushes. This sound was like a groaning sound, as someone was there, injured and in pain. Chandni tried to identify the sound. It was not the voice of Abu Khan, nor it was the sound of any other god. Then Chandni thought about the dangerous wolf which she had heard about lived in the hills. She felt nervous, and she felt also scared at that time. Now see the next part of the text. Should she go back to the safety of Abu Khan's hut? No, she said to herself. Death in an open field is far better than life in a small hut. The wolf had come out of the bushes and was staring greedily at Chandni. His eyes were shining like warning coals in the darkness. He seemed in no hurry. He knew the god was his. So, after imagining about the wolf, Chandni thought about whether she should go back to the safety of Abu Khan. But she decided instantly that she will not go back. She said to herself that death in an open field is better than the life in small hut without freedom. By then, Wolf had come out from the bushes. He was staring greedily at Chandni. His eyes were shining in the dark like burning coal. He didn't show any hurry because he was sure that Chandni was going to be his victim sooner or later. So this was there in this part of the text. Now see the next one. The wolf and the goat sized up each other. The wolf was big and ferocious, whereas the goat, though healthy, was small. What small is not big. Charney stood firm on her legs, had slightly bent and horns jutting out. She was a picture of courage. She looked like a brave soldier ready to fight a treacherous enemy. Treacherous means which cannot be relied upon. I must put up a good fight. Chani thought success or failure is a matter of luck or chance. So, in this part of the text, we read that the wolf and Chani both looked at each other to size up. The wolf was big and ferocious. Ferocious means frightening, aggressive. But the god, thou was healthy, but smaller in size in comparison to the wolf. But small doesn't mean weak. The goat was ready to fight with the wolf. He, she stood strongly on her legs, with her head slightly bent, putting out the edges of her horns towards the wolf. At the time, she was looking like a picture of courage, and she was looking like a brave soldier who was ready to fight with her treacherous enemy, and who could not be relied upon. She said to herself that she would fight with the wolf wholeheartedly and put up good fight. Success or failure was a matter of luck or chance. So these were the words of Chandni. Now see the next part. The fight began. It went on through the night. The moon, which had been watching the fight, began to grow pale and suddenly hid behind the clouds. The stars also began to disappear one by one. A faint light appeared in the east, and the morning call for prayer came from a distant mosque. In this part of the text, we read that ultimately the fight began. It remained continued throughout the night. The moon, which had been evidently watching the fight, began to faint and then suddenly hid behind the clouds. After that, stars began to disappear one by one. Then a faint light grew in the east, and morning call for morning prayer started to come from the distant or far off mosque. Now see the next part. The first rays of the sun saw Chandni lying on the ground. She was completely soaked in blood. The wolf, tired and sleepy, was getting ready to devour her. So in this part of the text we read that in the morning, when first ray of sun reached there, it found Chandni lying on the ground. She was completely smeared with blood. The wolf had also become very much tired and sleepy because of continuous fight with the goat. Wolf was getting prepared to eat the flesh of Chandni voraciously or greedily, you can say. And now see the last para is there. An assembly of birds perched on top of a tree nearby was debating the result of the fight. Who is the winner? One of them asked the wolf. Of course, most of them said. A wise old word declaimed with confidence, Chani is the winner. So in this part of the text we read that some words which were sitting together on the top of a tree nearby They started their debate about the fight. One of them asked who was the winner, and most of them answered that Wolf was, of course, the winner. What a wise old word announced with confidence that Chandni was the winner. So, this was all about this chapter. This is written by Zakir Hussain, and this is an adaptation. No, uh, as homework, you will write the complete summary of the story in your own words and write the answers of textual question in your own words in the notebooks. Thank you. Have a nice day. That's all for today.